Hey everybody, Brandon Jones here. I'm joined by Chris Wynn, and we have been on this stage to talk about Disney Infinity before, and we're going to do it again, whether you like it or not, because we got a couple weeks out from this game launching, and there's just seems to be new news every week. You know, there's a lot of figures that they haven't announced yet, and there's also a lot of questions I think people have, or I have, that I ask them a lot about, specifically how this stuff works. And I've learned a lot of information since the last video that we made. I did a video where I predicted kind of the figures, and I think I'm right, of all the stuff that we're going to see before launch.
Based on all the clues and stuff.
And so we probably won't be doing an official preview for Infinity, because we won't be able to get our hands on a big portion of the game until it finally comes out. So I think this is going to be the last preview or pre-review video that we're going to make before we finally grade this thing and get our hands on the actual figures and check it out. So anything right off the bat that you wanted to say?
This is actually, I think it was like the first time I actually got to sit down and just do whatever I wanted in the toy box.
Yeah, and
it was like a good sizable amount of time. It's not like a little, here's some 5 minutes, like here, real quick, and it's like, it's not a back and forth between some developer or someone kind of showing me and giving me an introduction. It was just, you know, with very, very limited knowledge here, just jump in, and it's overwhelming for like the first 2 minutes. Oh, yeah. There's just like menus and menus, and you kind of like, you just got to wrap your hand around how to navigate through the menus and everything. But really quick, I was just feeling that Minecraft vibe. You know, it's like, okay, I get this. I just want to start building things now and seeing how things work and seeing what I can make, seeing what I can, you know, because there's programming too with buttons and triggers and everything. It's like, what can I create and have people experience, you know? Instead of just playing tourism, it's like, what kind of game can I make out of this?
And I think one of the things that I found was really exciting that I mean, it seems obvious, but I didn't think about it before, is that a lot of the things that you can connect, so you can have like a switch that powers a fireworks thing, or you can have a goal that has a scoreboard. Any things that are connected can be across the entire map. So you can have a switch on one side of the map that triggers something that happens on the way opposite side of the map. And that I think is really exciting, like that. I know whenever you build something in Minecraft, like a track, you got to like put down, you know, like the little like red chalk thing, or what is it, a redstone? Yeah, and you have to like have it on certain sides of the block. And like Infinity, you literally point at one object, tell it what to do, tell it what object to connect to, and it goes for it. So at Comic-Con, Phineas and Perry got announced, which were from Phineas and Ferb, and I think that pretty much proves that we're going to get Buzz, Woody, Jesse, Ferb, Jack Skellington, Ralph, and Vanellope. I mean, these are all the characters that we've seen running around all the trailers, kind of like the Infinity cast, if you will. And, you know, in the Wave 2 predictions, I said, you know, of course we'll get these figures. We'll probably get a Phineas and Ferb playset because the show just really ties into everything you do in the toy box. And then they announced it at Comic-Con. So I'd be very surprised. I imagine that we're going to be getting all these in the future. So I learned the difference between packs and tools. And I mentioned this a little bit in the Comic-Con video that I did. That's a demo that you can check out on the Infinity page. And packs are like the equipment that you wear. So if you have like wings or jetpacks, anything that's like just shy of a vehicle, that's a pack. And then a tool is anything you're actually holding in your hand. So like if you're you know, one of the Pirates characters, your tool would be your pistol or your sword. And then all the other things that you can unlock, that's in just this giant wheel that you can go and select. So as far as terminology goes, that's what packs are and tools are. There are also sparks and spins, which I didn't know anything about before I got to Comic-Con. Sparks is the XP. So anytime you're in any of the playsets and you hit something and just these big blue like electric circles go flying out, like those are called sparks. That's how you level up. Yeah. And you can also get them in the toy box, which is kind of fun. If you win challenges or if you do some things I'll get into in a second, these things will pop out and you'll unlock sparks. So I think that's cool that you can level up your character in the event in the playsets
mode,
and also in the toy box. And all leveling does is it enables you to use more stuff. So every time you get a new level, it's like, oh, level 5, you unlocked this
bundle of you know, toy box
like
stuff.
this skin that you can put on the ground, or this object that you can put in the environment. So you don't go faster, you don't get stronger. All that is based, you know, either it doesn't affect you when you're leveling up, or they actually, you know, sell little cards that you can put on the or little discs. That you can
I also
put
think
that power you up.
It's really clever of a way to slowly introduce an overwhelming amount of content to kids and, you know, like gamers like myself.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you know, here's a toolbox, go create something, and here's 7,000 items. You know, it's like, geez, I don't know how, you know, but you know, if you start with, you know, level 1 tier and then you start getting the basics down, I think, you know, it's clear that they arrange it so, like, you know, more complicated items.
Yeah, it's gonna be painful to like crack the game open and we don't have all that stuff unlocked. It's like, oh, it's gonna take forever. And spins was crazy. I didn't know about this at all. So spins, you can unlock I believe you only lock that in the playset. You might be able to, I think when you level up, you unlock that in the toy box. But spins, there are some objects in the game that are specifically tied, and I haven't actually seen footage or a screenshot of this, to a slot machine. And when you get a spin, you get a chance to lower the bar on the slot machine and try to see if you can get one of these exclusive items that are tied to the slot machine or the spin machine or whatever. And you can actually pick, if there are 3 options, you can pick what you want those 3 options to be, but you can't pick which one of them that you'll get. So you can kind of like, maneuver it into getting something new that you want, but there is that little bit of unpredictability with the spin mechanic, and I think when you do cool things in the toy box, you unlock those. But I hadn't heard of that at all before I got to Comic-Con, so I think that's really interesting. And I would imagine very addicting to kind of see like what you get. Animal Crossing has a lot of that, where it's like you have to just rely on what's in the store when you're going to buy something. So I think they wanted to keep a little bit of randomness in there. And then there are also adventures and feats, which I hadn't heard about before Comic-Con. And adventures and feats are both tied to each figure, which I think is really cool. So if you have a figure and you put that in the game, when you go into the toy box, that figure will have its own set of adventures and its own set of feats. And feats are like challenges. So I imagine like one of Lightning's would be like win 10 races or something. And then when you achieve that feat, then you get a couple sparks, a couple spins. And those are totally specific to that figure. And adventures sound kind of like little mini quests. So if you have a certain character, you might look up their adventure list and it would say, like, here's some things that you could do or some challenges that are specifically tied to that character's abilities. And it just kind of adds that extra element of things. If you're on a tight budget and you only have a couple figures, once you're done with, building stuff in the toy box or when you're done with each playset, you can jump in and there's this extra level of content that's tied to those figures. So I think that's kind of cool. And I think, it's just neat to think that every time they come out with a new figure, it's not just like, oh, we give it the abilities and then we, made a figure and we're done. There's all these other things that are tied to that figure that are kind of cool. I hadn't heard about those yet. The toy box also has a bunch of tutorials that were kind of fun. It was hard to, that their voiceover in them, which I couldn't hear because it was really noisy in the room when I was playing it. But it's neat that they just don't throw you in the toy box. You can actually do like a object moving tutorial or a changing the skin of something tutorial, and they're not just like text things where it's like, here's how you do it. Okay, you're done. They're actually like little adventures. Like the one that I did had a little Captain Hook. I can't remember what they're called, a Weeble, like the
little skin.
Yeah,
little
the little
dudes, yeah.
character dudes, and it was a little Captain Hook guy, and he was like, oh, I need to get off this island, so we need to make a bridge, and then okay, I need to shoot over to that ship, so you need to put a tunnel here that I can go into. So it's like practical ways that you can be introduced to not just the objects in the toy box, but how to manipulate them, how to apply them, how to like line an object up to another object. And much easier than like trial and error. And it's kind of cool. I didn't think like that would make sense, but I didn't think that the toy box would have those tutorials. So that's kind of cool. And I think the way it is the default toy box that you jump into in the game will have them just scattered around. So you can actually walk over to the area that's like combat tutorial and jump into it and try to learn the combat and the ins and outs of that. And there is a spark mode, which when I went back and looked at my walkthrough that I did at Comic-Con was right there. I could see the button and I was like, oh, I should have clicked on spark mode. And I think that's if you, you can pull out a wand as a character and you can, go up to an object and click on that object to change it. But if you put something way up in the sky, and you're thinking like, I don't want to have to like spawn a helicopter and then fly up right next to it and then activate it, you can activate spark mode, in which I think you're just like a little, like a spark basically, or like that's what they're called, sparks. You are a little spark, and then you can just fly around and manipulate it. So it's kind of like edit mode, it's.
Yeah, like when you're just walking around controlling your guy, and I don't think this is spark mode, but when you're like maneuvering over to like big buildings or
right.
As soon as you select a building, it just jumps out anyway.
Yeah.
And
but your character's still there, and I think it still
yeah.
does that in spark mode. So like the reason it pulled out so you can see the whole building. And
yeah,
you
yeah,
can maneuver
and then you can place it anywhere. It doesn't necessarily
right.
need to be right next to your person.
But I spark mode would sound like something that you can't do in multiplayer, because it would seem like it's a build mode basically. It's like I'm going into spark mode because I just want to build. I don't want to drive a car around. I don't care what character I am. I literally just want to manipulate the environment. And I wish I did it while I had the chance to do it. But that's how it was explained to me.
I mean, I'm just thinking here. I think that'd be more beneficial to like when you want to start programming things, because when it came to the textures on objects and things triggering other things, that's when it really you needed to be in physical form, walk up to an object and hit it with your wand.
Right.
But yeah, like if you're on one corner of the world and I was just selecting between vehicles and helicopters, as soon as it asks you where you want to place it, like you can go out really far and place it almost anywhere you want.
yeah.
So like the spark may not be for like laying something out; it might be for like the more intricate things that is just
And just
too
movement.
tedious.
Like I said,
Yeah.
if you don't want to like have to get in a helicopter to fly up to something, you can just jump into Spark mode, move up there, you know.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting, and that's smart because I remember I think I asked that at E3. I was like, that sounds kind of tedious to have to like physically be next to something in order to manipulate it. Multiplayer mode that they have that is available in the toy box, which we did a LAN multiplayer match. Has to be your friends, obviously. There's no like lobbies. You can't like jump into a random thing with a bunch of random people. They have to be your friends to join you in a toy box multiplayer match. But that was really fun because two things that I thought made it kind of almost like a multiplayer game unto itself. Like you can set up races and you can play those. You can set up traditional games and actually play those with your friends. But you can also just screw around. Like if there's an object in the environment that your friend is standing on and you delete that object, they'll fall and die. And if you have any objects, like one I think that you had was like a jetpack that's not just like a straight up and down, but like an explosion that shoots you up in the air, and that will knock all your friends back. So if you have someone standing right next to you and you use that, like it'll knock them back. So I like that a lot of the fun elements had physics applied to them that would affect the environment. So and you can like drop a building on your friend and kill him. Like anytime you bring something in the environment, like it happens in real time with the other 3 players. And you have a health bar, which I thought was kind of funny. You can actually like smack somebody and kill them, quote unquote, and it's just like Lego where they just spawn back in the environment.
Yeah.
But just to have that, just to have the actual, if I want to play a trick on somebody that like I can actually, it's not just I'm knocking them over, but I can actually kill them, is kind of sadistic, but or knock them out or whatever you want to call it. But I enjoyed that. That was very fun, putting like machine guns on the sides of Mater and just running around and machine gunning everybody. They specifically said the Cars characters are different from the other people. They can't hold objects. They're a little bit limited in the stuff that they can do compared to like humans or things that have 2 legs and 2 arms and can more traditionally like use all of the tools in Infinity. And what they make up for that is they can do little like spin animations when they're jumping in the air. They can obviously move a lot faster and a lot easier than other characters because they're cars. And other characters can jump on top of the cars. So if you see in some of the gameplay trailers, you can see Lightning McQueen and someone's like sitting on top of Lightning McQueen riding around. And if you go into the toy box and you're Lightning and I go into the toy box and I'm, Phineas or whatever, I can jump on you as a second player and you can drive around and I'm like riding on top of you. So I thought that was kind of a fun thing to do, especially considering that they knew that the Cars figures would be a little bit limited. So it'll be interesting to see in the future other figures like the Planes figures. I'm assuming will be the same thing for the next Pixar film, that they'll be able to fly around, but they'll also be kind of limited. And any kind of figures that you can think of that aren't humans or that, I imagine if they ever do like Marlin from Finding Nemo, it's like a fish in the toy box. How do you do that? So if you're really going into the entire Disney library, you're inevitably going to hit some weird characters that don't really fit into the paradigm of how they set up, how objects are used. And one of the other big concerns that I have that I remember, was it Bloodworth that reviewed Skylanders? The last Giants?
I know
Was it
Damiani.
Damiani? Okay. He mentioned one thing that really frustrated him in the game was that he'd get to a fence and it would be like, oh, you have to own, Starfor or whatever to go into this area. So it's this whole, leg of content in this game that I can't access because I don't have this figure, even though I bought the game. And I brought that up at E3 when I talked to them, like, you guys aren't doing that, right? And they're like, no, we wouldn't do that to the player. And then they mentioned something on Facebook that seemed contrary to that, but it's not as bad. And it's basically that you have to have a figure to unlock certain items. So like so if you're going through the Pirates of the Caribbean playset, you obviously, will commonly do that as Jack Sparrow because that's the figure that you'll get from the starter pack. But you might come across a treasure chest that has Barbossa's face on it. So it's like, that might be a Barbossa exclusive item or some kind of Barbossa themed thing that you can then add, because it's all about items. You want to, like, every time you're going through a playset,
You want to just build your collection, your digital collection and your physical collection.
So it's like when you, again, it's kind of like the adventures and the feats. Every time you buy a figure, it's not just that figure and its abilities. It opens up all this extra content that's in the game. But it is restrictive, but it doesn't feel as restrictive as Skylanders. So that's something, when I review the game, I'll definitely be paying close attention to. Is like, how much am I being screwed out of by not having all these figures?
When I was given a demonstration of that exact thing that you're describing with the little mailbox, thing that's locked up.
Right.
If you have Barbossa, it'll unlock and it'll be available. It seems that every playset will have their things littered about, and if you have the playset of the Lone Ranger, those are the only 2 characters that exist. So they said it'll be easy to get. Essentially, it's like achievements and all these feats and everything inside the game. So it's not like your Xbox Live Achievement, it's your Disney Infinity ones.
Right.
And if you want to try to get 1,000, I don't know what the equivalent will be, but you want to get 1,000 out of 1,000 for all your play sets.
Right.
You want to pretty much experience every grain of content that's there. In order to do that, for some play sets,
And if you're not doing that, you're playing it wrong.
yeah. Buy everything.
Exactly.
No, but yeah, for like some playsets, for the Lone Ranger one will be you just buy that playset, it comes with both characters, and that's 100%.
That's a good
of the
example,
thing.
actually. Whereas Cars has the 2 extra playsets.
The 2 extra
where
ones,
Lone Ranger's
and
just them.
you're clearly when you're playing the playset, you're gonna have to have those extra ones to unlock the treasure chests
Right.
to get the specific content inside. And for the Barbossa thing, it really was just a skin. It was a hat, I think, for Barbossa.
Well, the one that they posted one on Facebook that was all of the Incredibles characters. They show that there's an.
That's hard. There's a lot of extra ones.
Yeah, so it's full. It's the 4 members of the family plus Syndromes. There's 5 characters, and they had a door. And they mentioned on Facebook, they're like, "What's behind the door? I don't know."
Yeah.
And it's tough because, like, on one end, you think like, "Oh, I'm being locked out of this content, and I have to spend, $40 to like get all of this stuff." But on the other hand, if you were going to spend $40 anyway, because you're a big Incredibles fan, well, you're getting a little more value out of your purchase because it makes sense. If like I said, if I'm in like Fireland and I got to go down this hallway, but I need like Splash Face, and it's like I don't care about Splash Face, but like having an item that's tied to the 4 Incredibles as a family unit, I don't know, it seems more organic, seems to make more sense. And like I said, it's not as big as like a huge level. It's just like an item or just like a room that you go into.
Yeah.
It's just a little bonus as opposed to like you feeling you're really missing out on something because you can't get access to it. And you wanted to, for us to, well, you mentioned the Aladdin playset.
I did, yeah.
Because we were talking about, this is probably the last time we're going to talk about Infinity before we actually score this thing. And Chris asked me what my playset of choice would be, which would be Nightmare Before Christmas, because it's the coolest animated film of all time. But specifically, they show some elements in there. So I know there's going to be some environment stuff that you can pick out in the toy box from it. And I would be very surprised if Jack Skellington is not a playable character at launch that you can get a figure of. But I want more. I want more figures. I want more stuff from that movie.
I'm gonna
What's
cheat.
yours?
I'm
Aladdin?
gonna cheat. I'm gonna say Aladdin, but because I said Aladdin earlier, I'm also gonna have another one. But Aladdin, clearly because there's no figures of anyone from Aladdin yet. They do have Abu in elephant form as a mount in the game. So like as one of the little power discs that you apply, and you can kind of ride elephant Abu around.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, there's just no, they also have like the little minis, the little skins, and they
And
also have
a couple
Cave of
environments,
Wonders.
a couple of things you can pull out in the toy box. Enemies, that
yeah,
you can,
guards.
the guards from.
And you can program them and have them patrol in certain ways or whatever. Yeah. But I just want flat out like Aladdin and Jasmine and all of them, Jafar even. Yeah. And I also want everyone has like a sort of vehicle, whether it be a jetpack or the Lilo and Stitch surfboards. Like, come on, the flying carpet, magic carpet.
Oh yeah, I was
Come on,
actually when I sat down in this chair, I was like, I'm surprised
That
there's
is
not
so
a flying
simple.
carpet. Yeah.
But then, okay, so since I already talked about Aladdin though, real quick, I also want Mary Poppins because that's why I was asking about the live action thing. It's like I would like to be Bert and I'd like to fly around with a chimney sweep. I think that'd be kind of goofy.
Well, Mary Poppins is actually very relevant right now because there's the
new movie.
There's the new movie.
Exactly.
And the musical's been on Broadway for a long time. It's the touring company is going all over the place, and so I think it's in the popular culture. Mary Poppins.
It's very relevant. So yeah, please give us a place.
when that Tom Hanks movie comes out, that would probably be a good opportunity to do that. And check out that trailer; it's pretty cool. Tom Hanks doesn't remind me
Saving
absolutely
Mr. Banks is the name of the movie.
He doesn't seem anything like Walt Disney, but it's Tom Hanks, and it's really hard to hate that guy. So that movie will probably be fun. But now that tangent's done, that's all my notes. Anything you wanted to wrap up on before we review Disney Infinity? I'm still trying to figure out how do I review this game. It's like, do I need to own all of the figures to review this game?
They need to send.
Do I need to
him
bankrupt
all
myself?
The figures. No.
That's a very good idea. That's probably the solve.
Hey Disney, send every figure to this guy.
Every figure, 2 of every figure.
2 of every figure.
No, I'm really excited to play this. There's going to be a big D23 event, which is the Disney convention, which they are going to hand out an exclusive figure that they haven't announced yet, probably Buzz Lightyear, and that's my prediction. And they're going to show some cool stuff. There's still a lot of stuff from the game that they haven't shown yet that they were very excited about when we bumped into them at Comic-Con. And the game comes out a week later, so stay tuned for the news at D23, and the game comes out on August 18th. So stay tuned for the review on GT and the official score. And thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Stay tuned.
Later.